Welcome to the third and final in our series of short films on what the government's priorities should be in their first 100 days. Obviously, we know that the new Prime Minister, Theresa May, has said that she wants to deliver a society that works for everyone, recognising that there are injustices and inequalities and that some people are not potentially reaching their potential. We don't have much social mobility in the country. We need to focus on how we can really ensure that everybody is benefiting from the economy and public services. So I'm really delighted that I am joined by Ellie and Amy. So Ellie has led our work on prisons in particular, and Amy is our Head of Education. Obviously we'll talk about the DfE and their role and obviously the fundamental role in delivering against the Prime Minister's ambitions. So to start with, Ellie, can I ask you, so obviously prisons is a really interesting area. People have often very strong views about what they think the purpose of prison should be.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about why prisons fits into a kind of life chances agenda?
Well, I think the sort of easy response to that has to do with the type of population that you find in prison. People are generally from quite disadvantaged backgrounds. About 30% of prisoners have experienced child abuse. About 24% of them have been in care while they were children. So obviously this is a sort of very disadvantaged group of society, which is why we need sort of very focused interventions to try and basically give them better life chances. And that sort of basically means that while they are in prison, we should really focus on training and education, giving them the right skills to then be able to basically face a better life once they're released, and give them the tools to find a job and hopefully be able to reduce reoffending, which has a very, very high cost to society. It's estimated to be about 13 billion, which is quite big. So all of the
creating a lot of victims on the way as well.
exactly,
so, yeah. So essentially, I guess what we'd like to see is Liz Truss picking up where Michael Gove left off and kind of taking forward that
exactly.
agenda.
But I think sort of the major challenge will also be that sort of these reforms are very welcome, but I guess there maybe needs to be a sort of greater strategy in which the government should definitely focus a bit more maybe on understanding what makes a good prison regime. And basically to understand that, we need to sort of gather better data and understand a bit more what sort of prisoners are doing within the prison's within a prison's walls, and then potentially we also need to measure outcomes a bit better. So once they're released from prison, for now, the only measures that we actually have are at point of release. So there's no way of understanding, you know, sort of long-term employment conditions or housing conditions of an offender, which is, I think, something that needs to be changed if we actually want to focus on rehabilitation.
Which of course links to your comments in our previous short film around actually the quality of data and how we use that effectively to be a bit more intelligent in how we deliver public services. So brilliant, thank you very much. So Amy, in terms of education, obviously we've seen quite a huge amount of change over the last six or so years. So Justine Greening going in as Secretary of State, what should be her priorities? What should be her focus? The one or two things she should really be doing?
Well, I think her focus should be on narrowing the attainment gap, because attainment at school is a huge indicator of your life chances and how much you will go on to earn in the future. And not only earnings, but also well-being and life satisfaction and the length that you will live as well. So you've got to start, when you're talking about narrowing the gap, very early. So you've got to look at what you can do to help disadvantaged kids have access to high-quality early years education. So that's going to be number one priority. The second is around school reforms, which have often been on the sort of supply side reforms. We've seen new schools, academies, and move towards greater use of academies that have more freedom over key things, like teacher pay, for example. But what we still see is pockets of poor performance in some parts of the country. So not only is there a gap between the percentage of kids that are achieving 5 good GCSEs that are from poor backgrounds and everyone else, which is still a huge inequality, but we also see that varies quite differently across the country. And so to address the attainment gap, You really need to be able to mobilise your teachers and be able to use the freedoms that academies and schools have to pay teachers more appropriately to get the best staff into the areas of the country where you need them.
And I guess that one of the areas that is particularly close to my heart is around the skills and the sort of adult education side of things.
Yeah.
And I think most people would feel that there was really a decimation in the provision for sort of continuing learning, retraining, all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that the new Prime Minister has done immediately is kind of do a bit of a shift in machinery of government, and obviously skills has now, and universities has now gone to DfE. What's your view of that? Do you think that's a good thing? Do you think do you think we should be focusing more on the kind of adult end as well?
I think it's always been an oversight to split skills and education the way that skills previously was in the business department. And so I think this is a great opportunity to actually look at some of the inequities, particularly in funding, where schools have been ring-fenced for decades now. And as you rightly say, adult skills budgets have fallen quite substantially over the last few years. So a message to Justine Greening, I'm sure she would, stay strong on that there's going to be a per pupil reduction in schools funding, but nevertheless some of the disadvantaged schools are going to see a redistribution, more funding come their way because of changes to the funding formula that she is bringing forward. So that's okay for some schools. So stay strong on that, and then hopefully there'll be some more money to spend on adult skills.
Thank you. And that links as well into the welfare reform agenda, which we also work on at Reform. Indeed, we're about to put out another big report on how you help people with disabilities to move into employment. And I think there's a real opportunity to, continue and build on the reforms that took place over the last Parliament and the first year of this Parliament, and particularly to focus in on a big ambition that the government had, which is around halving the disability employment gap. And that's about 30 percentage points between disabled people and non-disabled people, which is appalling, and it's barely changed in the last decade or so. And I think what we would like to see for Damien Green going in as Secretary of State is very much to focus on what are the radical changes we can make, both to the benefit system itself, which we know traps people on this passive model, which is not good for people. We know work is very good for people's health and well-being, or for most people's health and well-being. So changing the actual benefit system itself so people aren't trapped, but also then really investing, which links I think to the skills point, really investing in the welfare to work services that can provide the specialist, personalised support that people with disabilities and health conditions need. And unfortunately what we have seen in the beginning of this Parliament is a real reduction in that and a retrenchment back to Job Centre Plus, which we feel is a very bad decision. So I guess I would hope that on Damien's plate as he gets settled into the DWP is actually a reversal, dare I say a U-turn, in the decision that was taken at the beginning of this Parliament to really strip back on the outsourced welfare to work services. So thank you very much. I think there's plenty there that the new government can be thinking about. Huge opportunity, and I think we all feel it's a very exciting time to actually look at how you deliver public services that are much more inclusive, that are much more effective, much more targeted at those who really need them. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you have enjoyed each of the 3 short films we've done, and as Andrew Holdenby would say, we look forward to engaging with you over the coming weeks and months.